Baby wearing is amazing and has so many wonderful benefits. But did you know that there are some mistakes that many parents make that they don't even know that they're making that can have long-term detrimental effects to their little ones, especially in the hips? Check this out in order for you to learn a little bit more in terms of what not to do when it comes to baby wearing. I'm Adriana. I'm a pediatric occupational therapist of 13 years and a mom of 2 little ones under the age of 3. I work in the NICU and I'm also a feeding expert as well too. So let's dig into the 5 different mistakes that we could potentially be making when it comes to baby wearing. Number 1 is that the baby's head is way down to the chest. So we are occluding the airway. This is especially for newborn babies because they don't have enough head control and our necks are very weak. So definitely pay attention to the baby when it comes to not occluding the airway. Making sure that the chin is not all the way down to the chest and making sure that they are up above from the chest and not occluding that airway. So make sure that we are paying attention to that. That's definitely really important. Number 2 is making sure that the hips are not so straight. So what I'm trying to say is in this particular picture is you can tell that the hips are pretty straight, and what happens is when they are straight in the really long period of time, they are at high risk for developmental hip dysplasia. So developmental hip dysplasia, just to kind of keep it nice and short, it's basically when the femur or the long bone of the baby's legs are not developing or settling into the socket of the pelvis. And that can definitely be an issue as they get older because sometimes there are babies that are not caught, they are not diagnosed with hip dysplasia and they end up needing hip replacements. And there's an actual study in Norway that has discussed that and has mentioned that there are young adults that need hip replacements, and these are situations that can potentially happen when it comes to developmental hip dysplasia. And there's also unknown causes and unknown issues when it comes to that. But check out my video when it comes to how to prevent hip dysplasia up here. So check that out when it comes to that. It's very important. And mistake number 3 is when you're placing the baby forward facing way too soon. So we want to make sure that these babies are inward facing. So they are belly to belly or belly to chest against us, and making sure that the baby is inward facing. Again, outward facing is not the best because they are not developing their hips appropriately. You are maintaining the legs dangling down, and then also the baby's hips are not in the end position that we would like them to be in, and again they are at risk for that hip dysplasia as well too. As I've mentioned in number 2, that sometimes the seat is not wide enough for the baby to have that nice healthy hip development. This number 3, that outward facing way too soon before 6 months of age, is definitely a mistake. Even in movies that I have noticed right away where the babies are always outward facing because they want to see the baby's face and they want the baby to see the environment, see the world. But you know, it's not very healthy for the hips and it can be a little overstimulating for babies under the age of 6. So definitely take that into consideration. Number 4 is when it comes to wrapping yourself with the wrap, or when it comes to even like, for example, the Ergo Baby or any other type of sling or ring sling, sometimes it could be very, very loose. And it is not nice and snuggled against our body, and also not very supportive when it comes to supporting the baby. And it also causes us to compensate when it comes to our posture as parents. So it's very important to make sure that it is nice and snug against our body when it comes to a wrap or a sling, and making sure that the baby is nice and snug as well, because it can be very dangerous where the baby can fall out or the baby doesn't have enough support, especially in the head, because the neck again is very floppy and it's not very strong enough, especially when they are newborns or under the age of 3 months. So it's really important to pay attention to how snug the wrap is or how snug the sling is, just to make sure that it is nice and tight, and it's tight enough for the baby to breathe, and not super tight and also not super snug in order for the baby to breathe, and then also for you to be comfortable as well too. Because body posture is also very important for us as adults, where we don't want our shoulders rounded and we don't want to be hunched over as well too. So making sure that we are nice and upright, and making sure that we're not only paying attention to the baby, but also with our own body posture as well too. And number 5 is when we are covering the baby way too much with blankets all over their heads, when we are over putting a ton of clothing and that kind of thing on the baby as well too, well, they could overheat. So just being very aware of your baby's temperature when you are baby wearing, especially when it is cold outside or it is way too warm outside. We don't want to overdress, and also we don't want to overly cover the baby as well too, because it's very important to look at the baby's cues, to look at the baby's color of the face, just to make sure that we are paying attention to that when we are baby wearing. So these are the 5 mistakes that I have noticed when it comes to baby wearing, things that I even was not super aware of at the very beginning with my first child, and the importance of really paying attention to these things, especially when it comes to hip health, the long-term detriments of the hips and how that can cause damage overall, and then also not paying attention to those cues, the overheating, and also including that airway. That is definitely very important to look at as well. Now, there are so many positive things when it comes to baby wearing. We just want to do it nice and safely. That's the number 1 thing. All right, thanks. And let's go ahead and check out this other video that I have that I will attach here. All right, hope you enjoy it. Have a good day. Bye-bye.